Hi, everyone. It's Tuesday, October 24th. This is Jennifer Sampou, and I am having another Maker's Chat today. It is my pleasure to introduce Latifah Saafir.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good
Do you have
morning.
do you have your coffee?
I grabbed water.
Oh, good girl. Good girl.
I need coffee, but
Good. Well, I'm so happy to see you today, and so thankful to have you on Maker's Chat today.
it's so
Um,
good to be on. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this project.
yes, I know we have a lot to talk about. So for everyone out there, I would just love to just give a little background on you, of course. And I've known you for a long time. We have crossed paths because of mostly Robert Kaufman.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I remember it kind of in your earlier days of designing with them too and having conversations around the evolution of your fabric. So it's really been wonderful seeing your journey as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, when did you start? Because you started working with their solids at first, or did you
I
start?
did. I pretty much started working with their solids. I've been a huge Kona fan since I started quilting, which is back in 2009. Um, so yeah, I've been a huge Robert Kaufman Kona Cotton fan. I still
Yeah,
am. It's still my
yeah,
go-to.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And then I remember it was a collection I had, and you did your clammy. No, you did well. You did a couple things. I remember the loop, that fabulous. What's it called? The loop de loop one.
Right. Rocket 88, that was for your Playful collection. And I
Yes,
don't know what year that was. That was a long time
it
ago.
was a long time ago because I took a break. So I didn't come back to the industry till 2012. So, yeah,
And that's one of
yeah,
I love that quilt, and it's still a free download on Robert Kaufman if I'm not mistaken. It's a really fun because it shows off like large scale prints and things really really well.
yeah. And it's such a. I remember seeing that design, and no one had done anything like it,
Yeah, yeah.
anything like that Rocket 88. And so it's a classic Latifah
And
Saafir.
if you see the blocks in real life, they're huge. So it just imagine like it's really hard to tell scale in
Yeah,
photographs and on camera, but the blocks are huge. So when you see it in person, it's like, oh my God.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a fun quilt.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then, of course, your clammies. You're so. I mean, look what I have behind me. This is the Molehills, but you've got this shape down. So tell me, let's just jump right into it.
Sure.
What do you love about the shape that you have done in multiple patterns?
I absolutely have no idea what it is specifically that draws me to it. I just love it. So it started off with I wanted a clamshell quilt. And I always say that my best projects are the ones that are done very selfishly. Like I want to do them and I'm passionate about doing them. And I wanted to do a clamshell quilt. And traditionally clamshells are like 3 inches. They're small and they're hand stitched. And I'm not going to do that. So I decided to blow them up and figure out how to stitch them on the machine. And I developed a lot of techniques that a lot of other people have adopted for sewing curves, for in quilting. And it's sort of taken me on this whole journey. So it started with one quilt and with paper templates. I put it up was my first free pattern, download them back on the old Craftsy back in the day.
Wow.
And it's taken me on this whole journey to having the clammy templates and glam clam and lots of other patterns on top of it. And it's sort of, I'm really glad I love that shape because I'm sort of stuck with it.
Well, I think the cool thing about when an artist and designer kind of gloms onto a concept, you just keep drilling down, right? Because that's your nature. You are inquisitive, you are very thorough. I mean, your patterns and your tutorials are like, you've got so many views for a reason on so much of your tutorials you do on YouTube, for instance, because you drill down and then you make it the
Yeah,
best. That's
I really try. I love figuring out how it works. I love asking the question, what else can we do? And I love sharing. I love teaching. So it all contributes to you know, you guys getting way too much information sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But for those of the folks who don't know, you are the founder of the LA Modern Quilt Guild. You are also a co-founder of the Worldwide Modern Quilt Guild. I had the pleasure, I'm just going to brag about you for a second. I had the pleasure of seeing your 2022 QuiltCon featured artist show. You had the music, the hip hop going with it. You are a voice for justice, of social justice, and your breadth of what you kind of focus on and then spread out to the world is truly admirable.
Oh, thank
So I
you.
don't know if you want to speak to all how dynamic you are, and how you were very, very dynamic, and how you kind of choose when to dig into certain aspects of your life and how they reflect who you are and what you want to say.
I think, you know, thankfully I've been doing this for a few years now. And so as I do this more, I'm learning to be more confident in putting myself out into the world. And, you know, because I'm really careful about how the side of me that I show to the world. So I'm not one of those people that posts all my private stuff online and all of that. But I also, you know, being an African American woman in this industry, and I know a lot of my customer base doesn't necessarily reflect me. A lot of times I'm hesitant
Mhm.
to say, look at this side of me or look at that side of me. And I'm being a lot more comfortable with just, you know, this is who I am, you know.
Right.
And I there's a lot of freedom in that. And I actually find that that's really well received as well.
Yeah.
So usually if I'm speaking up about something, it's something I'm really, really passionate about. I don't always use my business platform as a platform for my views or my thoughts. And so I do it really very strategically. And so, yeah, you were talking about the quilt I did for Stephen Taylor's family, which was a really important piece for me. And it also was an important statement for who I am in the world, you know.
Right. Right.
So, but more importantly, I just kind of try to follow my heart in my work, and wherever that takes me,
Yeah.
that's sort of what I
Yeah.
follow. So, yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you, because I think it's great. You know, you're a huge inspiration to me, and I enjoy looking at all aspects of what you do. And I understand, were you an engineer, or are you studying to be an engineer prior to getting in the quilt world?
I have a mechanical engineering degree, and I ended up, my last corporate job was working for Salesforce.com, which is a
Oh,
B2B software company.
we know who they are in San
Yeah,
Francisco.
yeah, of course you do. Yes, you do. And so, and I worked for them for a number of years, and then I got laid off, and it was sort of my freedom to finally follow my heart, because it's always hard leaving good health care
Yeah. Yes.
and good benefits. Think
Yeah.
about making it as a businesswoman or man in this industry, is to realize that at that point it's no longer strictly a hobby,
Yeah.
but it's a business. So you have to make business decisions
Yep.
and be willing to, you know, put in the work and the time and all of that. And I literally work, I know you do too as well, Jennifer. We work on our business
Yeah.
all the time, but I love it so much. Like I wouldn't give it up for the
I
world.
know.
So, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
no, I 100%. And I do treat this as a business. And if I only treat it as a hobby, it wouldn't be a business, and I wouldn't be making a living on it. I was looking at your website, and the Quilt Cadets, is that still going on? Like, can you tell us what the Quilt Cadets is? Because it's like helping teens. Did you do a Kickstarter for that? I'm trying to remember.
I did a Kickstarter when I first started off with my patterns and rulers and all of
Okay.
that. Quilt Cadets was a small part of that, and it took me a long time to sort of get that ramped up, and I'm a one-woman show still, and
Right.
so it's hard to be pulled in 10 million directions, and I
Right.
really, really want to one day dive deeper into that whole project. So Quilt Cadets are sewing patterns for kids. I
Okay.
learned how to sew when I was 6, and my mom gave us, me and my older sister, who's about a year older than me, the machine when we got interested in it when we were, you know, 11 or 12, and we sort of like just plotted our way through figuring things out, garment sewing back then. And there's a beauty in learning how to sew at that age, and a lot of because it's not in the schools, it's not taught to the youth traditionally
Right.
anymore, and it's a great skill to have,
It, it
you know.
it's so good to be able to make stuff.
yeah, to be able to make stuff. And so I thought, you know, what if we had a vehicle to be able to introduce sewing to the young people in our life, whether we were a grandparent or a parent or a
Right.
friend or whoever.
Right.
And so there's 7 patterns. Annabelle Wrigley from Little Pink Cushion
Yeah.
Studio designed 3 of them, and have plans to add to them, and I haven't in a while. But
It's okay.
it's a really fun, yeah.
Let's get into talking about our project, right?
Yes.
So, I have been, let's see, I've, I've seen you, I remember the last time I saw you, we had dinner together was at Craft Napa,
It
right? Well,
was.
no,
What?
before that, well, just before that, the most recent was Up in Sisters.
Oh, yes. Yes, I did see his
Yeah.
sisters as well. That was earlier
Yeah.
this year. Yeah.
So it's really nice because Latifah and I see each other in person. We have dinner together. We have lunch with a group. You know, we sit out on the lawn. I love sitting out on the
That was
lawn
so
and just,
much
oh,
fun. We, at Sisters, all the teachers got together and we would sit quilts out on the lawn, and we sat out and ate our lunch every day. That was my best time of the
the
day, I think.
best memories. Yeah. So for folks who haven't been to the Sisters Outdoor Quilt Show, it is so communal and it's really beautiful and it's chill. It's very, very chill.
It is. It's a
Um,
wonderful event.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I just saw you. That was the last time I actually saw you and gave you a hug was in Sisters in was that in July? Yeah. The
Yes.
second weekend in July.
Yes.
Um, and are you going back next year? Do you know?
I am. They're waiting for me to send them the rest of my class information as we. I have 2 new Hurdy patterns. So Hurdy is my half rectangle triangle ruler.
Okay.
2 new Hurdy patterns that I'm teaching. I'm doing a designer. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I'm doing 4 classes. I think I'm teaching Glam Clam again,
Oh,
which is
good.
funny because I teach it so much, but it always fills
It's
up.
such,
People always,
it's
I always get so many requests for it. I will be 80 years old teaching Glam Clam. I swear that I will. And I'm doing a design your own class. I can't remember which one that is, but yeah, it's a fun show. It's Quilters Affair and Sisters Outdoor Quilt Show.
well,
So
I will see you
check it
there
out.
because I'm teaching again as well.
Oh, great.
And
Yay.
their 49th year. And I think I'm teaching 4 days. I'm teaching Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
And then of course I'll be at the quilt show. But yeah, so let's talk about the Molehills quilt.
I have so many of them laying around here.
I know. So this was the cover. This is like the cover girl of my latest chalk and charcoal lookbook. And I took your class online. I think it was during COVID. And,
I think so.
and yeah, and you were so cute because I'm like, I think I want to make a dress. And you had reduced the scale of it. Remember? I was such a pain in the butt. I'm like, I want to make a dress. And you're like, click, 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 click. And you're like, here you go. Like, you're so fast with all of your things. Like, I would be like, sorry, you're going to do it the size I gave it to you. And like, I can't compute that. But you were great. You're like, and I had it in the smaller scale. But I started it in the large scale. And this is one of my first blocks.
Oh,
I
really?
folded the quilt. I folded the quilt because I wanted to show folks one of my first blocks was all in the sky. And Jolene Tosti was also in that class. And I remember just falling in love with the big, I mean, if you look at the scale, if you put my face like right up to it, like my head is the size
huge.
Of just one of these blocks.
Yeah, they're like 25 inches point to point. So they're really big. Yeah.
And that's like my kind of thing. I love big quilts because I love my fabric to be in big swaths.
The fun thing is this makes a really big block, but it's also interesting because you do have the five arcs in it, and you know, so you can really still have fun with color and fabric and all of that. Yes.
Yeah, and you can see like what's so fun about the Ombrés, you can see it like create this glow in this little corner here because it goes all the way across. And so then I put it away, you know, because COVID, you know, we were, you know, I don't know, I think I was probably, we were doing all kinds of things and trying to figure it out. But I put it away, and then when I pulled it back out, I'm like, oh my God, I have to finish it. And I love it. It's such a cool pattern. And Jolene helped me. And the curves are nice and gentle, but can you, like, we squared up for sure, or not squared up, but what would you call it? You're not squaring it up, but you're cutting the pattern back to the original piece to make sure that if you had any little extras on the side when you sew your curves together.
Yeah. So yeah, so one of the things, and we'll post some videos as we do the quilt along. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but there are techniques for making sure the sides line up. So technically, when it's sewn together, you shouldn't have to do that.
Right.
And there's a couple of techniques that will help you be able to sew those curves to where you shouldn't have to do any kind of squaring down.
Right.
You know, it's not really squaring it down because it's no longer, it's not a square.
Right. Right. Right.
But you know what I mean. But trimming it down. But and I'll talk a little bit through when it's what's acceptable. You know, like if it's a 1/4 inch, then that's probably okay. If it's more than that, you may want to unpick into a certain point and resew it. You know, but it's the beautiful thing about it. It's based upon this really huge circular shape, and that makes the curve so easy to sew. So people, if you're really intimidated by curves, it's one of the easiest patterns. We're making one block repeatedly, and we take that same block and we cut it for all the side pieces and all of that. And I really love the way this pattern goes together. Molehills was my very first printed pattern. So if you look at the code on the back, it's LSS 0001. This is my very, and I keep looking at it because I'm like, and it was my first pattern, and I can tell because I've grown a lot since then. But I would also look at it and sort of impressed because the fact that I figured out how it goes together.
Yeah.
You know. But so I'll show you the very first Molehills, and I'll send you pictures to add into the video when we get it.
Great.
But this is the very first Molehills I made.
Oh,
it's
piece. You did like the piece, the piece little, yeah.
And so if we've all either walked or driven over this design, it's a classic stonework design. And the only name that I found on the internet for it is called European Fans. But it's this really classic, and it's stones. And so this is the original. And this is one of those, we always ask the question, what else can we do? So it went from this version to the version that ended up being the cover quilt, which is just the 5 arcs within the fan. And so it goes together. It's the name Molehills is because my mom, when we were kids, used to always say that saying, don't make a mountain out of a molehill. And I feel like this is that pattern where, besides for it being, you know, shaped like hills, but this is that pattern where it seems a lot harder than it is when you really get into it.
Yeah.
So it feels a little bit intimidating, but then you get into it, you're like, oh, I'm sewing the same curve over and over and over again. And even when we put the whole quilt together, we're still sewing that same curve over and over and over again. And
curves are actually very, very forgiving because so much of it is on the bias.
You can make it fit.
Fit, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Just to be clear, we did not have to do a lot of trimming down, just to be clear.
Yeah.
It really, you know, because that bias is so lovely and long and forgiving. Like, people are like, is this a hard quilt to make? And I'm like, no. It looks hard, but it's not. And what I love about is the freedom that I had to work with color, because the pattern is so simple, really. But I would have never approached to make it. I would never have designed this pattern in a million years. So I'm so glad you did.
Yes, yeah. And I'm excited that you found this pattern so many years later, and that it's sort of being, you know, it has a revival now because of the fact that that you made sure it with your beautiful fabrics. And ombre fabrics are just the perfect fabric for this quilt. The perfect fabric for this quilt. So
well, and everyone out there, I don't know if you guys have caught on, but Latifah and I, drum roll, we're gonna quilt along. Yay!
Exciting.
Yeah, we're doing a quilt along, a sew along, a SAL. So for those of you who don't know what QAL and SAL, it's quilt along and sew along. And Latifah, you want to describe what that is for folks who might not even have ever done the QAL?
Yeah, I think we're gonna do it. We're still finalizing the very final details. We're gonna do it in like a 6-week period, and each week we're gonna go over a phase. So the first week, of course, is gonna be kind of a deep dive into color, and Jennifer has done an excellent job of laying out the Hills version of the quilt, which is, and have kitted it up, and a lot of you have that. You have an opportunity. She has a few available on her site as well if you haven't gotten that. You can also use your own fabric if you want to join in and you have it. There's also a number of people, I've been told, that have molehills that have been started and that haven't been completed. So this is a perfect time for you to pull those out as well. So every week we'll go through a different phase, and the first week will be color and planning. The second week we'll deal with cutting our arcs out and doing a lot of our cutting up front, and then we get into sewing the fans, and then it'll progress until we're assembling the quilt in the final week. I just saw the question come up, are templates available? I posted the templates online last night. It's been one of those years for me, at least, where things that normally will take like 2 weeks have been taking 2 months. And a lot of it has been out of my control, but I finally got them in, and I have the templates posted, and I will be posting the tutorial on how to use the template, because it's sort of a unique template in the way it was constructed. And you'll see 2 sizes. The size that you need for the sew along and for Jennifer's, the Hills quilt is the original. So the Molehills template, the original, which is slightly bigger. And then there's also a fat quarter template if you have a ton of fat quarters and you want to play with fat quarters.
I love that. I love that.
So yeah, so it's going to be, sew alongs are fun because we're doing it in community. And it's kind of sort of the momentum, you know, because it's easy for us to start a project and put it down and get pulled in lots of other directions. So and we say quilt along, sew along sort of interchangeably. We're basically sewing our quilt top together.
Yeah. And what I think is so exciting is that we're going to be talking about color and technique, and we're going to be working together, which is really fun, because when you make your Molehills quilt, they're very different feeling, and you use a lot of solids, and your very first one was a lot of prints, and then you did those little, what do you like, the mosaic pieces within the curve. So you can you can drill down as scrappy as you want.
You absolutely can. And this is, I write a lot of my patterns so that you can find yourself within them, you know, like you can really find your voice, whether it's with color, or I give you lots of different options. This was before I knew to limit options. and so this pattern has a ton of different options. There's a bonus download of a full fan, where you can cut out one big huge fan and insert that into your quilt. You can mix and match pieced arcs with piece fans with full fans, and you can have a lot of fun. And I know it's gonna be fun.
So cool, because I bet you got some gals out there, some guys and gals who maybe started it one way and they're like, damn, I'm gonna throw in a full molehill, you know, full piece, and I've got this mosaic-y piece, and then I might throw some ombres in of like, or throw those little color dashes in like I did here. You know, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, you did a lot of inserts in yours, which were interesting because they just add that little pop of color.
And it's gonna be really fun to see.
So someone's asked, this is first PDF on Latifah site, right? Okay, so 2 things. One, I needed to reprint the pattern, and because this is my very first pattern, I decided to update and rewrite the whole pattern. It is at the printer and won't be here for a couple of weeks. I still have copies of the old pattern. If you have the old pattern, you are perfectly fine, because I'll send out, if you've downloaded your, every pattern has a download copy of the pattern and templates and everything. If you've downloaded it already, you will get an update when that's been updated. So whichever version you have, you have all of the information that you need. So if you purchase it, just go through your downloads, download it. You'll get the newest, freshest, most updated pattern. And it's basically, I looked at myself from like 8 years ago and says, you've come a long way. Let's freshen this up instead of paying for, you know, getting reprinted a very, very old pattern. It's just been freshened up. It's the same pattern essentially.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
With the kit, this is the original
That's
pattern.
the
with
original
the new
pattern. Inside of that pattern, there's a download code.
Okay, so the download code they get in this, because they haven't purchased it directly from you, I purchased it from you and put it in here.
Yeah.
But they'll have the download code.
Yeah. That has the download code, and you'll get a PDF version of the brand new fresh pattern in there as well.
So they follow either pattern. They're both correct.
They're the same pattern. The other one's just written better, slightly better. It's just, you know, I format. It's a lot of it's formatting and other things. And it also has the charts for the fat quarter.
Great.
The fat quarter Molehills template as well in it too. So it's the same thing.
What was the year you did this Molehills quilt? Right, 10 years?
It's been close to that. Yeah, maybe printed patterns or maybe 8 or 9 years. So
this is what I like to call a classic, a Latifah classic, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's still a great pattern. That's the pattern you use.
That's why.
But like everyone who has the old pattern will get the PDF version of the new pattern.
It's awesome.
It works out really well. Yeah.
I'm so happy.
So on the website, I've updated it so that now it says pre-order for the pattern. But if you're ordering it with something else, then I'll ship you a copy of the old pattern because I still have a handful of them left as well. So.
Right. Do you have the little template with you to show us what it looks like?
Of course, I left it in the other room. Give me 2 seconds. I'll grab it. I don't know if you can even see it too well. So this is the template.
Oh, there we go. So that's, which size is that one?
This is the original. So this is the one that goes with the quilt that you have. It's hard to see acrylic on. It is the half shape. So you'll see it's cut off in the middle there.
Cut on
and so we're cut on the fold. And so I am working now. I didn't really want to post the templates for sale until I got this video posted, but it should be posted by the end of the week.
Okay.
So, and it's a video on how to use the template to cut, because the cutting instructions are a little different because we're using this one template to cut all 5 arcs. And it's a half shape as well. So we put our fabric on the fold, and then we have lines for it's going to be really easy. You're going to love it.
Like I like your ability to do all the geometry and all the math. Like, thank you.
I mean, I honestly have to thank my.
I was thinking you've got to do 5 templates, but you don't. You did 1.
Templates the set would have been like $100 and something. It would have been ridiculous, right? So I'm like, I can't. I have to give credit to a lot of my customers because they've been requesting this for years. But I always say I can't sell this huge 5 template set for one, so that only makes 1 quilt.
Right.
And I honestly, probably 8 years ago, I hadn't worked with making templates and stuff enough to have the thought process in order to design it the way it looks today. That one piece, half shape, and it works really great.
Everyone needs that template. Yeah, I got to order one too.
I dropped one of each in the mail to you.
Oh, thank you.
To have it in a couple days.
So back to our quilt along, which starts the week of January 22nd. It's going to be 6 segments, most likely. And Latifah and I are going to pre-record it. And so it's done really well. So you have great content that's not going to waste anyone's time. And you'll
have access to it for a few months past the date of the quilts along. So we'll give you access to all of the free videos for, I think we said about 3 months total.
Yeah, 90 days. Because this is not going to be a forever free course. Because her and I are putting a lot of effort into it. And I've already pre-sold like 70% of my kits. And once I sell the 100% out, because Robert Kaufman put these together for me.
They're so beautiful.
They're really nice. A lot of fabric. It's a lot of fabric. They're expensive, but it's worth it. So anyway, yeah. So this is kind of a very precious time, January, February, March, for people to learn this. And we're super excited. I've never presented a quilt along. So I'm so glad to have Latifah as my fearless leader in charge.
And I have patterns if you need a standalone pattern. Patterns come with the kit from Jennifer, but you have to get the template for me if you want that.
Yes.
And someone just asked about doing a map for the king size quilt. So king size, for any other, we're going to focus on the map for the Hills layout that we did with Jennifer's quilt. There's going to be a lot of people doing things outside of that. We're in the first session, we're going to talk about color and layout and the flow of the fabric. And so if you want to do a larger quilt using the Hills kit as a framework, then it'll be really easy to pick your favorite couple of ombre colors, get a couple of extra yards, and then you can sort of expand it and fill in the blanks. And we'll give you enough guidance for you to be able to do that on your own. It'll literally be impossible for us to make maps. It's a lot of work that goes into that, and for every single size and everything. So we're focusing on this one particular sort of layout. And we'll talk in general about making decisions about expanding it.
This is
whether you want to go bigger. Yes. Oh, it's so beautiful. So whether you want to go bigger or smaller. And then, or if you want to pull from stash, you know, if you have your own, whether you're working from solids or prints or whatever, and you want to play along. And check out the Molehills hashtag on Instagram as well. There's some really great, some really great options, and people made some fabulous Molehills quilts as well. So yeah, we'll give you enough guidance where you can definitely make any size quilt that you want on that.
Yeah, and if any of you guys didn't get your questions answered, everything will be coming on our newsletters. And yes, the pattern does come with the kit. The template does not. So you got to order the template right from Latifah.
Perfect.
Yeah, so this is exciting. It's exciting.
Very exciting.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining
today. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for having me on, for inviting me on this journey. I'm really, really excited to see all the beautiful quilts that are going to come out of it.
Oh, there's going to be amazing. It's going to be like Christmas.
Yes. In January.
All right.
All right.
All right. Thanks. Bye, Latifah.
Thank you
So much.
Bye.